All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome in. We're going to wait just maybe a minute or two, maybe three, as we're getting started here and get everybody joined in and comfortable, connected to the audio, all of that good stuff. We're excited to chat with you guys today about the biology program here at Reed. And it's a beautiful sunny day here in Portland. Not sure that I would call it especially warm, but it's definitely sunny and nice. So give it just a couple more. Let's see how many people are going to join us today. And you should feel welcome to turn on your camera and give us a wave if you like. But no pressure. Hi, glad you're here. Okay. Got one or two more people here. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. It's, of course, just after 5 p.m. here in Portland, but I know that people are joining from all over. So I, again, appreciate you taking the time on your Friday night or your Saturday morning, wherever you might be. So it is now 2 minutes past the hour. So I'll go ahead and get started. I want to make sure we use all of our time well. Hello, everybody. My name is Duncan. I am an assistant dean of admission here at Reed. So I'm one of the admission counselors, and I'm happy to introduce the session today and introduce our two wonderful faculty members. I wanted to say just a couple notes on how the session is formatted this afternoon. We will say hello to our faculty members, and then they have an introduction to the biology program here at Reed that they're going to share with us. And then after that, we will go to Q&A. I'll probably be doing a little bit of moderating in there, asking a few questions that I think will spark interesting conversation if necessary. But if you guys would like to put your questions in the chat and just ask what you are most curious about, we can also do that. So I assume everybody is pretty Zoom savvy at this point, but just in case you don't know, the chat button is down at the bottom bar, kind of right in the middle. And you can just type in and tell us what you're most curious about. So with that, I'll pass it over to Anna and Derek to take it away.
All right, thanks, Duncan. My name is Anna Ritz, and I'm in the biology department.
And my name is Derek Applewhite. I'm also in the biology department. I use he, him.
And I use she, her. We're excited to be able to tell you a little bit about the bio department, and I will kind of share my screen and pull up some slides. Chrome. Okay, and then we can, I think we can share this present. No, presenter view.
There we go.
So hopefully.
One would think that we were more savvy about
this.
this.
Can you see the slides?
We can see the slides as well. We can also see the presenter view panel.
Can we not close that?
Let's see.
Perfect.
Okay, we're gonna go start. Okay.
Good.
Perfect.
Cool. All right, here we go. So I'll start. So a lot of what we're gonna talk about is on our webpage. So if you go to reed.edu/biology, a lot of the slides that we have are just gonna kind of pull up pieces of that webpage. Okay, so we're going to start by talking a little bit about the academic program and what kind of a biology major means at Reed. And so we actually have a lot of different flavors of biology that you could kind of explore while you're here. And instead of this list, which is really helpful, we have this handy dandy little chart.
Yeah. And so we're not going to get into the details about how many credits and what units and what counts for what, because it's not going to be helpful at this moment. But we just want to give you a general overview of what the biology program is like. And so at the center of biology, of the biology department, is the biology major, which is what's in bold and the big in the middle. And then we have several sort of what we say different flavors of biology. So the oldest one, not the oldest one, I shouldn't say that because I don't know that, but the one that has been around for the longest that I do know of is biochemistry, medical biology, or BMB. And this is kind of a mashup between our biology major and a chemistry major. And so it's going to have more of a molecular biochemistry focus. And so similar to that is our neuroscience. Instead of being biology and chemistry, it's a mashup between biology and psychology. And so these are both two standing interdisciplinary majors that one could major in. And then we have environmental studies. Environmental studies is kind of a unique program, I think almost in the institution, in that it's kind of picking and choosing from different departments. So we have an ES biology, ES chemistry, ES history, ES poli-sci, and ES economics.
Econ, yeah, it's the last one.
Econ. Awesome.
Econ. So you basically get a flavor of environmental studies, and you have to sort of take classes from all 5 of those departments, but you can kind of concentrate in one of those 5 departments as well. So you can be an ES biology major. So of course you've taken the like broad ES curriculum, which might include poli-sci, history, chemistry, etc. But your focus is going to be in whatever I said, history or biology, for instance. So it's kind of an interdisciplinary, very interdisciplinary major that's an offshoot of biology. So that's kind of our program. And the last one is by petition. So what that means is basically if you really, really love biology, but also have a passion for art, there's ways to merge those two type of disciplines. And there are actually 3 levels of that merging. So there's a bio ad hoc. So basically you're a biology major, but you kind of substitute some of your bio classes with art. And then there's a biology art interdisciplinary major. And so that means you do a biology, you do full biology, full art, completely integrated. And then there is biology art double major, where you have a biology and an art degree and you double major. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this way is that if you're the first flavor, the ad hoc, what that means, and I'm sure that many of you are aware, one of the things about Reed that makes it a special place, there's several things, but one of them makes it a special place is that we have a thesis requirement. So if you're a biology art ad hoc, you actually do a biology thesis. And you can address art in your thesis, but your biology thesis lives in the biology department. So it has to be a biology thesis. If you're a biology art interdisciplinary major, you're actually doing one thesis, combining the disciplines of art and biology, but you take 2 quals. So you'll take a qual in art and a qual in biology. If you're a biology art double major, which rarely happens, you take 2 quals, you write 2 different theses. So that's different the level, that's the different levels. Ad hoc, 1 thesis, 1 qual. Biology art interdisciplinary, 2 theses, 2 quals, 1 theses, and then a biology art double major, 2 quals, 2 theses. I hope that makes some sense. And again, I kind of glossed over qualification. So before you can actually do your thesis, we have a qualification exam. And I'm sure, again, as you were considering Reed as your place to go, you're aware of this qualification exam. And we can certainly talk more about that in the question answer portion of this. I don't want to jump over that, but it's kind of important to understand 1 thesis, 1 qual, 2 theses. God, I messed up again. 1 thesis, 1 qual, 2 quals, 1 thesis, 2 quals, 2 theses at that level.
That's actually a great explanation. Derek's also on sabbatical, so this is like a little, he's kind of taking a departure from research to talk to us today.
Yeah.
And it's also, I think, just kind of to reinforce that every student does a year-long thesis, and you can kind of choose how much biology gets put into that thesis, whether it's a whole hog biology or it's an interdisciplinary, or you actually have kind of 2 separate different disciplines.
And I have personally mentored students that have done ad hoc and interdisciplinary. I've never mentored a double major.
Yeah, cool. So we'll be happy to answer more questions about the curriculum at the end, unless there's maybe should we pause?
Yeah, is this a burning question? Because
now?
that could have been kind of confusing.
Nobody said anything in the chat yet, but if there are
Okay,
questions, go ahead and put them in.
cool. And we'd love to take more questions about this, especially kind of at the end too. All right. Okay, so we're now going to talk a little bit about kind of who we are as a biology department. This is a picture that is, there is, I think, one retirement, and we have a new addition or two to this group, but this is mostly us. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through every single person and give the one sentence description of what they do. Research is a kind of a big thing here because we have this thesis, and research mentoring is really important to us. So we all have independent kind of research programs.
And our research is often, you know, interwoven into our teaching. And so at times it's actually really hard to separate what we do as researchers and what we do as teaching, because they kind of get combined. So that's probably why we're going to be emphasizing the research so much, is because it really is part of our daily lives as faculty members. Whether we're teaching or mentoring the lab or doing our own research, they're all kind of mashed together.
Yeah, and so when we talk about our research, I mean, you can think about these are also the types of upper level courses that you would be able to take from a subset of us. Are you gonna go first?
Sure.
Okay.
Eric Zornick, he's a neuroscientist, and he studies vocalization and how circuits in the brain talk to the vocalization of the frogs, and how we get these patterns that are generated when frogs are singing for mating behaviors. But he's a neuroscientist and a behaviorist.
Awesome. Okay, so Janice Champay is a geneticist in our department, and she studies the molecular biology of telomeres. So telomeres are these like kind of protective ends of chromosomes that get shorter and shorter as we age.
Yes. Susie Wen. Susie Wen is also a neuroscientist and a behaviorist, so very similar to Eric, but rather than studying vocalizations and how the brains talk to the vocal cords of the frogs, she studies behavior of fish, cichlids, and how they sort of change their brain chemistry when they're brooding babies. So they hold their little fry in their mouth, and so they have to like signal to their stomach to stop eating so they don't eat their kids. Also mating displays and sex differences. So she's more of the behavioral side, but she's a neuroscientist as well.
Okay, Keith Carroll is an evolutionary biologist. I'm checking with Derek because, as you'll see later, I am a little further afield from bio. And what he studies is kind of evolution of local plant species, especially flowering species, in the Columbia River Gorge. So we are in this area that's actually pretty unique because there's been a ton of kind of prehistoric floods that have gone through the area. And so he's been able to study kind of the patterning of coloring in different plants.
Sarah Shack is a genomicist. So she's looking at big picture genome-wide understanding of organisms. And she has so many different organisms on this slide because she basically looks at these organisms, just such a wide variety of organisms. Her particular specialty within the entire genome are these elements called transposons. These things are virus-like particles, but I hate to even say that because they're so rudimentary from viruses that can jump in and out of genomes and kind of disrupt genomes. But she's a genomicist, so she's kind of looking big picture, full genome, rather than you know, Janice, who's more of a geneticist, if that's a contrast we can make. Yeah.
All right. So Jay is our microbiologist, and he has some really exciting projects going on the biodegradation of plastics. So trying to figure out how to get little bacteria to degrade plastic, and also experiments using CBD as a therapy against different bacteria, really virulent bacteria.
Aaron Ramirez. So Aaron Ramirez is a translational ecologist. And so I love what he does. It's so fascinating, but he kind of bridges policy and the biology of ecology. So he's kind of fast tracking what we find out in the field so that policies can be made so they can be implement them more quickly in our society. And his specialty within the ecology is fire, which is quite pertinent and relevant to where we are currently located in the Pacific Northwest. And so, yeah, fire ecology, but he's a translational ecologist.
Yeah, and he's in the environmental studies program.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, Sam Faye is also an ecologist, and he is a limnologist, which is, he studies lakes and ponds. And what he studies are how little critters, basically different kind of Daphnia, basically can change and become plastic in terms of changing environments. So you think about kind of global climate change, how are organisms in lakes actually going to fare in the future? He also studies mass mortality events, kind of along those lines too. Oops. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Cool. Okay, now we can get to ours.
Yes. So that's me. I am a cell biologist by training, but I use Drosophila, the fruit fly, as a model organism. And I use the cells of Drosophila. And my specialty is understanding the cytoskeleton. Much like our body has muscles and bones, cells have analogous structures that help them move and change shape. And so I understand how the cytoskeleton influences cell migration, cell shape change, and development.
All right, I think I'm next. Okay, so I am a computational biologist, which really means I'm a computer scientist hanging out in a bio department. So I study signaling pathways, molecular interaction networks, and I represent them as these networks, or mathematically as graphs, and try to understand kind of how protein-protein interactions can culminate, can change phenotypes. Like, for example, that cytoskeleton picture that you saw from Derek's, we actually have a project to understand the signaling pathways to computationally find candidate proteins that may be regulating those cytoskeleton dynamics. Okay, so I'll just segue into this. We have a couple visitors who are going to be with us for the next few years, as well as another special guest at the very end. So these are actually going to have kind of flavors of previous faculty.
So Jeremy works very closely with Sarah. And so his bend is still genomist, the genome, but he studies Arabidopsis. And it looks like he's also doing some stuff in Daphnia. But again, it's just sort of an offshoot of what Sarah does. He's really interested in polyploidy and endoploidy and how organisms can have multiple copies of the genome and how that affects gene interactions.
And our other visitor is Drew Anderson, and he works very closely with Susie Wen and studies the why and how of sex-biased behavior in a slightly different species of cichlids. So also looking at different species. Oh, no. Okay.
Okay. And Camila Lopez Anando will be joining us, well, has already started, I think, in this spring, and she's a brand new faculty member. And she is quite interdisciplinary. She is a plant cell biologist / molecular biologist / developmental biologist / genomicist. And so what she's doing is trying to understand a comprehensive idea of how plants develop into different structures. You have leaves, you have other parts of plants, flowers, etc. And so she's looking at kind of she's using all those different disciplines sort of combined together to understand plants.
Yeah, you kind of take like the best, coolest parts of what we all do, and turns out Camila does it all.
That's what she does.
So we're really excited about having her.
Exactly.
In addition to faculty, there's also a lot of other people in our department that really help things kind of work. So there's a lot of staff and in the stock room. We have a science outreach program. We have a lot of administrative people that help us kind of help us do what we do and teach really excellent classes.
They are the oil that keeps this engine going.
Yeah. And two of them are alums. So
yeah, it's wonderful.
Okay. Okay, I think this is almost the last slide. We wanted to point out, we have all these kind of research that we talked about. Not only do you see that in our classes, but we also have a lot of summer opportunities. We also have a lot of students who go and do other research experiences outside of Reed. But we have a good summer research program that's really fun to participate in, and you get to present your research in this poster session in the fall for everybody else, which is also really fun.
It's a robust research program, probably between 20 and 30 students each year participate in summer research at Reed. It's really fun. it's great enrichment to your curriculum here at Reed.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that was all we wanted to say. We wanted to keep it brief and fast, so we're happy to take any questions you may have.
We can stop sharing. Okay, cool.
Oh,
yes.
the qual.
So the question was, can you please explain more about the qual? What the qual is? Sorry, I misread. So the qualification exam is supposed to be, it's kind of an ambiguous sort of, I understand that the ambiguity around it's kind of, it's ambiguous, but what it is kind of a check to see, hey, do you have the skills it takes to go on and do a thesis? If you're working late at night by yourself in the lab, can you make the solutions that you need without your mentor there, without, you know, getting the right concentrations correct, using the right reagents to do said solutions? Can you figure out the math to do the solution? Do you understand? Broadly? Can you read the literature? Can you abstract information from the literature and apply that to what you're doing? Can you read a method section and copy the method section so that you can actually do use that method section for research? That's basically the qual.
Yeah, and the point about kind of the first few years at Reed is in your biology classes, you would be taught and supported in learning about all these things, right? So it really is also, it's not about specific classes you've taken, but like you will become familiar with all of these things in your first few years that will set you up well to take the qual. And at Reed, kind of like the thesis, like every student does a qual in their major.
Yes.
And it looks different in different departments. Okay, the question is, say if I wanted to become a dermatologist, would you say it's a better fit to major in biology or chemistry? Ooh, good question.
My feeling about medicine is that it doesn't really matter. There are a couple of things that make Reed kind of a unique place. The course demand is pretty high, and so if you were at another institution, you could probably be an English major or a music major and go on and do the right courses that you would need to take the MCAT. But Reed is a little bit more intense in that I don't know that it's easy for you to do, say, an English major and also take the right courses that you would need to take the MCAT. And so you probably do have to major. I've actually yet met someone who doesn't, but I could be wrong. You probably have to major in either biology or chemistry so that your course loads overlap with what you kind of need to take in order to go into med school. I'm specifically avoiding pre-med because we don't have a pre-med major. That's not a thing. We do have a pre-med club. That is a thing, but we don't have a pre-med major. So the overlap of the course that you take for biology and for chemistry would likely set you up, add some physics in there to be able to be successful on the MCAT and fulfill those needs that they're asking for from med school.
Yeah, well, and I think as long as you can get the classes you need for those preparation, you can take biology or chemistry as you kind of are interested in it. So you know, as long as your courses are satisfied, I don't think it matters. They're not looking for biology majors or chemistry majors or B&B majors. It's just, you know, you can major in whatever you want as long as you can kind of cover those classes.
And if you could swing it and be an English major, that's also okay as well. But I just don't know with the demand, the way that Reed's curriculum set up, it's just really difficult to do those two. It's not impossible, it's super difficult.
Cool.
And as a quick follow-up question, and there is support for students through the Center for Life Beyond Reed as well. So there's a little bit of pre-med infrastructure as well, right, guys?
Yes. Correct. Yes, there's a pre-med club. There's a lot of support at this institute, this program.
Yeah, we have advisors, like certain faculty that are kind of set aside as pre-med advisors to make sure you're on track.
Yeah, it's great, and we're building that up more and more because the student interest has become more and more. So yes.
All right. Cool. I think we should just keep taking them in order, and then Duncan, if you just want to jump in with follow-ups, that would be great.
Yeah,
sounds great.
Okay, the transfer admissions process. What are the specific prerequisites or just a theme of biology and chemistry courses such as Bio 1 and Bio 2 and Chem 1 and Chem 2? great question. It kind of depends on the school you're transferring from. I'll say I've never been in charge of the transfer process, but
No.
we have faculty in our department that
Susie.
help that. It's usually Susie Wen. And so I think that's more of like a conversation in terms of what the classes you have taken would transfer in as. And you talk about that with an advisor as you come up with your plan for your major. And if there's any need to have a petition to say, oh, you kind of took Chem 1 and 2, and so that's already okay, we can kind of work with the faculty, work with you to help you kind of get that through.
The basic requirements for transfer, though, is that we need to know the syllabus of that class and the textbooks and all the material for that class, so that we can understand how does this class that you took this other place fit within our curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
And so gathering that information beforehand and having every single syllabi or syllabus, I think syllabus is correct, every single syllabus and exact textbook you use, and even like example exams, etc. And talking with your advisor will help us understand, okay, this class will fit into this category, this class will fit in this category.
Yeah, cool. What is the ratio between lecture-based and lab-based classes in the bio department?
Wow, almost every single class has a lab.
They're kind of, you get a 2-for-1
Yeah,
deal.
you do. I'm trying to think.
There have been, since you've been on sabbatical,
yes, yeah.
some new additions that are just lecture only, but there aren't that many. And so most of the courses, the biology courses you'd be taking, have a lab component, and like the lab actually kind of matches the content of the course.
So I didn't want to get too into the weeds with this, but the bio program is kind of structured where everyone takes intro bio, which has a lab, and then there are a couple 200 level classes which don't have labs, but they're actually not that many. And then a lot of people might take one or two of these 200 levels, but most of the people jump into the 300 level classes, and those are lecture lab classes. And so again, you're going to get your lecture and your lab. And then junior year or so, there are these classes called seminar courses. They're 400 level, and those meet once a week, and you really just discuss papers, and they don't have a lab. But the bulk of our classes and the bulk of our major are lecture lab type courses.
I can take the next one. Would I apply to the biology program or just Reed College in general? So you would just apply to Reed College, and there's a place that you can specify your preferences. The preferences are basically going to help match you with a potential advisor once you land here. So it's a kind of okay to say, I'm interested in bio, and then come here and be an art history major, and you just have a bio advisor for the first year.
Totally okay.
So yeah, you just apply to Reed. Plants and birds. I'm quite interested in plants and birds, especially involving bird genetics. What opportunities would I have? Are there nature reserves in the vicinity?
Yes. The question, that's a tough question, because there's so many people you could possibly work with that also share those interests. I could immediately think of Sarah. I immediately think of Sam. I think of Aaron.
I'm advising a thesis on basically bird migration patterns in Portland. So yeah, so there's also not only could you get those experiences in summer research or in classes, but if that's something what you want to do, you can kind of craft a thesis project that really just focuses on what you want to study.
Yeah, and the Pacific Northwest is, I'm biased at this point, is one of the most beautiful places in the world to live. And you have access to mountains in an hour, the ocean in an hour, very varied landscapes. You go east, you're looking at a high desert, which is very different from where we are. And so there are ways to incorporate the natural landscape into your thesis as well. Yeah. And that would incorporate your plants and animals that you're interested in.
Yeah.
Do you two mind expanding a little bit on the senior thesis, and in particular how a student might go from, say, the 300 level biology classes to coming up with a thesis topic?
Yes.
Yeah, so it takes a lot of different forms. So first of all, we all have research projects that we would love students to work on, because since there are no graduate students in our labs, like undergraduates are what really help us with our research. So there are already a hotbed, a ton of research projects. If something kind of interests you, especially if you've taken a course, a 300 level course from somebody like Derek, and you really love that stuff, but you don't really exactly know what kind of question you want. we also have students who kind of, as I mentioned, like really have been focused, on finding a thesis topic that's really special to them and maybe isn't, and none of us faculty are an expert in it, but we still mentor that. And so, yeah, we've had some really cool social network projects on killer whales, orcas in Puget Sound. Someone went up there and actually took survey, studied them. And we've had other kind of different thesis topics. So whether you have your own idea that you've been thinking about for a long, long time, or you just really like this one class you took and you want to learn more, we often talk with students often talk with their faculty in the beginning of their senior year, and then write really brief proposals about, I think I want to do this project with this person. And then we kind of start the thesis process from there.
And the thesis process really starts with the question, how does this work? What does this mean? That's really simple. It's just simple questions like that. And it's modeled after what you would experience as a graduate student. And so as a graduate student, you would start working with the lab, trying to answer a question and trying to find a piece of knowledge that did not exist in this world until you started to answer that question. And so that's the model kind of that Reed has built behind it. But we've kind of sort of tweaked it so that it's, undergrad, although not, really it's like undergrads are basically at that point, you're kind of like a grad student anyway. But that's really just, what is the question? How does this work? In my field, you'll say, what is the mechanism behind this interaction, right? You're just simple questions. That's what is at the heart of what your thesis is. And as Anna described, there are basically thesis projects that are already pre-built, and you sort of talk with your advisor and say, I'm interested in this aspect of this research that you do. And there's also theses where I'm like, I really want to understand how clovers take over fields when these certain species are also in that field. And we have no one that does that per se, but there's people that can help you sort of direct you in those questions.
Yep. And I guess the last thing about thesis is when we talk about doing a thesis, it's a 2 semester, so it's a year-long class. It's a class called thesis.
You get a grade.
You get a grade, and basically at the end of it, you have a written document. So there's a lot of kind of, you could do a lot of wet lab work, you can do computational work, you can synthesize a bunch of literature, but in the end, you have a big written document that you then get to discuss with other faculty.
And you have to defend your thesis in front of a panel of 4 to 6 faculty, basically going through what you did, why you did it. And also you're getting questions about things you probably learned as a intro bio student or as a 300 level class in Anna's computational systems biology class. So those kind of questions are also going to happen to you. So it's similar to, and again, it's patterning after what one would go through in grad school. When you go to defend your PhD thesis, you have your committee that you're kind of defending the research that you did defending. Sounds like a very adversarial word. It's not really that way. It is more of a discussion about exactly why you did the things that you did and how you did them.
I got a question just to me about my research. So if there's time at the end, I would love to talk about that. And if I don't get to it, please email me and we can talk about it later. Yeah. Going next, what are the medical internship opportunities like at Reed?
Yes, so this is where our collaboration with other institutions and area institutions comes into play. None of us are medical researchers. We are all fundamental scientists. I like fundamental rather than basic. We're all fundamental scientists. And so that doesn't translate specifically to human health. But we're in a vibrant community, Portland, Oregon, and there are a number of hospitals in the area and a major academic research hospital that is literally, you can see from the campus of Reed College. And so when it comes to medical specific type internships, that is something that you would go out into the community to get. And again, the Center for Life Beyond Reed has a lot of opportunities and ways to help you get into those hospitals and into OHSU to have those internship type experiences.
Yeah, so Oregon Health and Sciences University is the research medical school that has a lot of really fabulous programs that a lot of our students go and they're, they've been lab techs there, they've
Yep.
done internships, they've gone to grad school, they become med students. So we have a really good connection with them.
I actually have a funny story. So my husband is a anesthesiologist. He works at OHSU. And there was a student that was at Reed when I started. He wasn't in my class, but he went to OHSU for med school and then applied to residency. And now he's at the residency program at OHSU. My husband happens to be the director of the residency program at OHSU. And so this student has experienced both me and will experience my husband in med school. So that's what happened. And it's like, this is the first student that's happened. We've been kind of laughing about it, but anyway.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. I'm interested in learning more about pre-med club. Are there any meetings to give more information on what it's like? So the pre-med club, we've had previous iterations of the pre-med club, and it really had a resurgence last summer. And so this is like the first year that it's like really, really going well. I would say email one of us, and I we can put you in touch with the faculty mentor who would know more about
and
that.
I know Duncan knows this as well.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any opportunities to study paleontology, paleobiology? So the current faculty do not have that expertise.
But there's certainly someone in the area that does. And so if that is really your interest, you would work with faculty mentor to sort of find those people in the community. Again, we're blessed to have, lucky to have OHSU, PSU, Portland State University, Lewis and Clark, University of Portland,
University of Oregon,
Oregon State University, all within the area. And so if that's something that really, really you're jazzed about, we certainly can help you find and connect you with someone who does that.
Yeah, just know like there may not be like a course on that topic since we
true.
don't really have anyone with that specific expertise.
But that doesn't mean that we can't sort of figure out a curriculum for you that would best fit that type of course. I'm thinking there's chemistry, some for sure. There's a lot of chemistry actually, some basic biology, and we could start to sort of build a curriculum that would best match that discipline at Reed.
Cool. Is environmental studies mixed with biology or is it a separate major?
Yes.
Yeah, so environmental studies is a separate major and there's a biology version of it. So you have environmental studies - biology, and that's different. Basically, that major allows you to take out a few courses from the traditional biology major to take all of those classes in chemistry, econ, poli-sci, history, to get that other aspect of environmental studies. So it is environmental studies - bio.
With a flavor.
Yeah, an emphasis of bio.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Does that answer? I hope that answers your question, Sophie. Okay.
All right.
Hey, down. Sorry,
yes.
My dog.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of academic prerequisites would you recommend for someone wanting to get into genetics research at Reed? Great question. I mean, I think we actually have a lot of students at a lot of different years do research with us. Yeah. So taking topics in bio, which is our introductory bio sequence, will give you exposure to multiple different faculty. And, once you kind of have gotten to see what other kind of the way faculty teach and what they teach and what their research is, you can talk with them. And we've had, rising sophomores in both of our groups, as well as, rising juniors and seniors.
I've had second semester freshmen in my group.
So there isn't really any academic prerequisites. I would just say if you find someone whose research seems really interesting to you, just go talk with them and ask them what opportunities they have.
I think I would say at least one semester of intro bio.
Yeah.
At least one semester intro bio. That might be the only, if I'm going to say there's a prerequisite, that would be it. Like one semester of intro bio.
Yeah. Are there any math and chemistry courses required for the bio major?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Okay. We'll do this one and then we'll go back one because I missed Jade's.
Okay. Yes.
All right. Yeah. So math. So
yes.
There are two math or computer science or statistics is also under that courses required. And there's 2 years of chemistry.
So you have to take, sorry, go ahead.
You go.
Chem 101, Chem 102, which is your basic
introduction,
fundamental chemistry course. And then you have to take organic chemistry often, which is 201 and 202. So that's 4 semesters, 2 full years of chemistry. That's it.
Yep. There are other classes that could also count as an additional piece of bio if you want to do that too.
Biochemistry series, there's I think 3 courses in biochemistry you could take if you wanted to. Yeah. So Jade's question that we skipped.
Is biology itself a major, or do you have to take one of the branch? Biology itself is a major.
Correct.
You can be a bio major. You can be a bio major and take the neuroscience classes and still be a bio major.
Correct. Yeah, bio itself is a major. Those other ones are flavors of bio.
I'm gonna move some a little.
Okay. Yeah, we are dealing with the setting sun. Okay.
Cool.
Okay, cool.
Okay, I'm wondering if you know what the transfer acceptance rate and what the median GPA for transfer admits. In addition, what would stand out on an application?
I covered that question in a direct message, just to get the technical stats out of the way.
Perfect. Yep. And any other questions like that, definitely direct them to Duncan, because he is the expert in this room on that.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm thinking of getting into biomedical engineering / genetic engineering. Are there any opportunities for that? What should I possibly consider majoring in?
Yes. So we used to have a 3-2 program with Duke University, and I have to check the book to see if that's still on the books. Duncan, do you know if that's on the books still?
I believe the forestry program is still on the books. I'm not sure about.
Okay. I thought there was a engineering program that was also similar to the forestry program, in that you take a couple of years here and then you take 2 years somewhere else.
There is definitely engineering. I'm not sure. I presume you can combine that with biology. Yeah, but I think of that as being an engineering program.
So certainly biomedical engineering, genetic engineering are offshoots of biology that bring into engineering. And so if those classes are offered with the school that we work with, which I think is Duke. Is that correct, Duncan?
The engineering 3-2 program is actually Columbia, Caltech, and Rensselaer.
Thank you. So I am almost positive, not 100%, but almost positive that for sure biomedical engineering is something that is offered at those institutions. Maybe genetic engineering. Genetic engineering was a blanket term that was used sort of in the past. We've kind of moved away from it because it sort of encompasses some other disciplines, but for sure biomedical engineering is something that we still use. And so there is that program. One of our students was a biomedical engineer.
She was a physics major. So again, you don't really have to worry too much about what you'd major in, but what courses would you want to take? So you can be a bio major, but for biomedical engineering, you may want to consider a few extra physics courses.
Yes. And what she did was a physics major who did a bio thesis, and then also connected with us and found a biomedical physicist type person to do some summer internship with. So she was able to sort of take the physics classes, which is really important for engineering, get the biology so you can understand the bio part of that bioengineering half, and then getting some experiences in those labs, so that when she went to go apply for a course for graduate school, which she hasn't done yet, but which she will do soon, she's sort of built her own sort of curriculum that will help her for the next step. So those things are certainly possible. And again, what this just takes is like communication with people, so they know, so that we as faculty know what you want and can help you sort of get there.
It looks like there's a follow-up. Can we pursue biomedical engineering in graduate school after majoring in biology?
Yes.
Yes. And the thing there is, one thing in terms of graduate school especially, in addition to the classes that you take and what you major in, you also would get to know your faculty. And so faculty, like your person you did your thesis with, will have a lot to say in a letter about your potential for graduate study. So it's a kind of a combination of all those things. So there's definitely a way, if you kind of keep an eye of what requirements biomedical engineering would have, and taking those classes and maybe focusing your thesis on something in that realm, that you could definitely do. Whew, I think we got through them all. Maybe we'll wait for a couple minutes in case there's any other questions. I guess, okay, so I can go back to the question about research, if that's, okay, no, we'll keep going. What are some opportunities biology students have to engage in outreach work or otherwise work with the surrounding community at Reed?
Isn't that excellent? I'll let you take them.
That's excellent. Okay, so we have this fantastic science outreach program, and it grew out of biology, I think, but now it's division wide. So we have, chemistry and physics and math and computer science and biology. the program is focused on going into local elementary schools and designing curricula for local elementary schools. I mean, I think like, yeah, through fifth grade.
Yeah.
We actually have a director who Ciara, who's really excellent, and basically kind of manages it. There's definitely opportunities if you want to get into education, science education, especially in the K through 12 realm. We have like a fantastic program for that.
And there are volunteer positions, there are paid positions with science outreach. And the interesting fact is that some schools rely on science outreach for their scientific curriculum for that school.
Yeah.
So it's really become quite integrated into the community, which I think is a wonderful thing. I'm a little disturbed that that's how those schools get science education. Not that the outreach isn't a great program, it's that we should probably have science education in all schools always. But that being said, it's that integral to the Portland community. And I will say this too, I think Reed students tend to not get involved with the Portland community, and you're in a school in this vibrant, beautiful, interesting city. And so the more you can get out and reach out and make those connections with the community, I think the better. And so I really try to encourage my advisees to get involved with the community that your school is in.
Yeah, and just
sorry, that's my dog.
Beyond science outreach is also ways we have a physical education requirement, and there's now a community outreach component where you can, there's different community types of community work that could count towards that as well. So there's beyond just science outreach, there's other ways that you can kind of get integrated.
Maya asks, I'm interested in many different topics. Approximately how many different courses maximum could I take during 4 years at Reed? That is the liberal arts dream right there. Because Reed is a liberal arts school, you have to take a whole bunch of different courses. You can't just take science courses. You have to take courses in English. You have to take courses in philosophy and in math. Other topics I should
yeah, I was just reading about a creative writing course and I was kind of jealous.
There we go. Creative writing. So you absolutely have to take other courses. There's no way around it. And that is the backbone of what makes Reed what it is. And in fact, I believe wholeheartedly in this. The best writers and thinkers are those people that have this broad exposure to many different disciplines. And I'm so thankful for my colleagues that are in the humanities and in English, and that they help train our people that want to be biologists on making arguments and writing, because all those skills that you're learning in your humanities classes, maybe you're a hardcore biologist, like you're bored by everything else. Get it. I was there. I was you. That being said, this broad education with all these different disciplines swirling around in your head, learning how to write, making arguments, makes you such a better writer and thinker and scientist in general.
Yeah, and I think in terms of how many courses maximum, some courses are counted a little differently, but I think students typically take usually 3 to 4, like 4 courses a semester. Sometimes 5, sometimes 3, but you can think about that as you look at the course catalog. Yep, the recording will be available. Cool. Well, so okay.
Want to answer your question about research?
Yeah, I'll answer my question about research. I think the person was asking about some of my network stuff. Okay, so here's my I should have Derek and I, we enjoy explaining each other's research, but I'll take a stab at this. So I work on these biological networks, and so you can think of them kind of like a social network, right? I mean, I'm kind of old school, so I think of Facebook. So you have you and all your friends are connected by these pairs, like if you're a friend or not. We can think about that same thing, except instead of people, they are proteins. And instead of Derek and I have a link if we are friends, protein Derek and I have a link if we physically interact in some way. And perhaps come together to go do something else. So we can actually build these, they're called protein-protein interaction networks that kind of describe all the possible ways that proteins can interact in the cell. And if you visualize them, they are really huge hairballs. They're super, super messy, but somewhere in there is a series of protein-protein interactions that help cells change their cytoskeletal shape. So we kind of try to understand like how to extract like from this huge kitchen sink of all these protein-protein interactions, potential proteins and their interactions that actually affect certain kind of phenotypes that we want to study.
Correct. And cell shape's one of them. Anna also works on cancer.
Yes, and diseases in general. We also worked on schizophrenia associated genes using this network idea,
Exactly.
using algorithms from social network theory.
Not to explain Anna's research here because I could never do that and she knows better. But this network is just a tool to understand how proteins or even other molecules, RNA, DNA, interact with one another. And so it's just like any other tool that one would use in the laboratory, except it's happening all inside of a computer.
Yeah, I mean, even like this type of framework, since I'm a computational biologist, it's also used to explain which neurons are connected to each other in the brain, or which brain regions are connected to each other. So like there's a lot of really awesome research that I am kind of a novice in, but it's really fun to explore with students, especially during thesis projects.
Correct. Yeah.
Sounds awesome. So we're sort of running down the clock here. So I thought I would ask a really broad question to sort of put a cap on everything we've talked about, which is just, what is one thing that you guys really love about Reed?
Oh, what do I love about Reed? I mean, okay, the first thing that comes to mind is I just really love the community. So when Derek talks about, all of these courses that are outside of biology, we actually know the faculty who are teaching those, and we know the students who are majoring in those majors because they're in our introductory courses. So it's like, kind of, we get to know the students, we get to know other faculty, we get to know other staff members across campus because it's a really small place. And so I love that community, and I love kind of always learning from everyone, from students, staff, faculty.
Yeah, I would say the heart of why I love this institution is the relationships. That's it. I mean, I have wonderful relationships with my colleague and my friend Anna. I have wonderful relationships with other people in departments. I have wonderful relationships with other people that aren't faculty. And so the heart of this institution is these strong relationships that you're able to build. I have wonderful relationships with my students. And I think that's what drives the institution in general. Is I know, once you graduate from Reed, you know your professors. I've had students at my house because we're going over thesis defenses. So we were, doing a chalk talk about their thesis defense. It's a place where we build and strengthen relationships. It's a place that depends on relationships between faculty, relationship between staff and faculty, relationship between students and staff, relationship between students and students, relationship between students and faculty. It's all built on these relationships, which you have an opportunity to build really strong relations with a whole bunch of different people at the institution. This is not something that you would get at a large institution. For sure you would not. But at Reed, it's a must. You cannot go through your time at Reed and not build strong relationships with other people. It's impossible. It's a must. And you could even try and you couldn't do it. It's just impossible. So relationships are the backbone of this institution.
Awesome. And we should use Anna's research to map out all of those relationships.
I was going to find out. You did it for me.
Exactly.
Totally. We'll have to talk to Audrey. So to end this off here today, Derek, Anna, do you guys want to put your emails in the chat for people to reach out?
Yeah.
And I will also put our admission email address in the chat bar here. So if you have general questions about the admission process or really specific questions about the admission process, please feel free to reach out to us. We can also direct you to other resources around the college. And of course, if you guys would like to reach out to Derek and Anna, I'm sure they have all sorts of good information they can share with you as well. So I think that brings us to a close. Any parting words, guys?
We look forward to having you. Can't wait to build a relationship with you.
Yeah, good luck with all your decisions. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, absolutely. Everybody reach out in the future if you have more questions, and have a great rest of your day.
Okay.
Bye. Thanks, guys.